What happens in the sky affects life down here on Earth. The celestial compass shows you how and guides your way with astrology you can use from professional astrologer Kathy Biehl. Every episode features her light-hearted, practical forecasts and navigational tips, blended with humor, optimism, and a love of patterns, symbolism, and pop culture references. Kathy translates technicalities into concepts that apply to real life. You'll learn how the current moment ties to where we've been, from the recent past to cycles that last happened years ago, and get a look at where we're heading. And much more, from special topics to special guests. The Celestial Compass, enlightening, entertaining, and empowering. Here's your host, Kathy Biehl.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Kathy Biehl of EmpowermentUnlimited.net, and we're diving directly in with my guests and colleagues, Louise Edington, professional astrologer and Cosmic Owl Astrology, and Andy Bassano Brewer, a professional intuitive and global futurist. Louise and Andy and I have been doing collaborations on YouTube at least weekly, in many instances twice weekly, since early November. Guess why? And today we're going to continue to talk about the global implications of what is going on politically. And I want to address at the outset that today is not what I saw happening. It's not what any of us really wanted, but I don't believe any of us see it as being the end of the story, nor that this involves just the US. And I will just put, before I welcome my guests, I just want to put in everybody's mind that Mars is retrograde right now and goes back to its current positions in March. And that tells you right there that there's a lot more going on. So welcome, Louise. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, nice to be here again.
Thank you very much. Good to be back with the two of you. Thank you.
Yes, we've been hanging out quite a bit. Okay. Who wants to say what?
Well, I'd just love to say, I don't think yes, we didn't see this, but we always said right from the start that the story wasn't over. We said there would be many, many twists and turns. We were never absolutely sure that, what happened today would not happen. And we have gradually over time pulled in all these other players. We've done a lot of research and used our own kind of knowledge of history and things to look at things. And the story is not over. It really is not. So, I want people to take heart. That's all.
Andy.
Well, I'm still optimistic. I mean, I'm not really optimistic about Trump or not optimistic about the rhetoric that comes out of it. And it has a tremendous impact on the way in which people feel. I mean, he's triggering a lot of people. I've said this for a long time. I don't think that Trump matches the collective energy of the United States. Therefore, I do think that there are more people who will be in contravention of what Trump is trying to push forward. And I think that will have an impact. Also, the three of us have talked about this, and certainly I said it a lot, that I expect information coming out of the EU, specifically with NATO, to have an impact, kind of circling back. And I'm still hopeful that will have an impact. So even though it's not what any of us want, that doesn't mean that we still can't find positive things moving forward, and that there's still, I think there are a lot of things in the chart would not really be, in my opinion, supportive of Trump trying to push through what he wants. I still think there are a lot of reasons to feel optimistic, and I haven't completely gone under the couch and hid just yet. So we'll see.
I'll just add, I remain calm. You remain calm too, Louise. We've had a lot of talks. And I was not calm last time. This time, I'm just weirdly calm.
Well, I knew he would win last time. So I was fairly calm because I had seen it coming. This time I didn't really see it coming because there's so much going on. And astrologically, we're in such an unprecedented moment because we've got all these major slower moving planets changing signs over the next few months. And can I just mention
Please.
the astrologer, the French astrologer, Barbeau, who actually he died in 2019. He was a researcher of cycles. He had a thing called the cyclic index, and he predicted the pandemic. He said things would really be a mess from 2020 to 2026. And 2026 is when all these planets have changed signs, and he said summer of 2026 is when we really move out of all this. Now, does that mean we have to wait till then for this current thing to start changing its story? I'm not convinced, but as we've pointed out, it's a bigger thing, it's global. So I think just over the next few months, just watch this space. I happen to know from two people that claim to know, at least, that there are definitely election interference investigations coming. So
And
reports.
well, we do know that Canada's got one coming at the end of
Mhm,
January,
mhm,
and there is all kinds of indications that there's a commission in Europe that has said it's going to be investigating a certain tech billionaire for interfering in elections in a whole bunch of countries. So it's more than just us.
mhm.
And so
Yeah.
we have this inconvenient event that has occurred. But
Yeah. And
I
there's
wouldn't
this.
wanna beat him right now given what his, aspects are like for the next few
Mm,
months, and that's why I
and
say it'll be vastly different by March.
and
End of March.
I did not watch the whole thing, as I promised not to, but I did watch a little bit of it just to get a feel of the energy. And the energy is just not behind it. The people at Smart Elections website and Substack have been researching all the data, and we know that the data was manipulated. I just think they're finding it hard to prove exactly how right away. Yeah.
Right, yeah, I'm getting in touch with Andrew. Oh, yeah, he lost his connection, he's coming back in. Alright, okay.
But we'll carry on
We'll
until he
carry
gets
on.
in.
Yeah, we'll just continue blabbing.
Yeah.
Um and someone just said in chat, the whole thing seems weird. Many things seem weird. Neptune is very much, "Hey, Andy, welcome back."
I thought I
Um,
would take a vacation for a while. Hi.
mm,
Mhm.
hello.
He admitted it twice,
So,
actually, Sasha, didn't he? In
3 times.
y-
He said it 3 times.
three. Oh,
Twice
right.
in one snippet and then a 3rd time. Yeah. Alright,
Yeah.
fine. So, we'll actually look at some, charts in a minute, but I do wanna stress, we've been consistently saying this is bigger than the United States, and, like, why wasn't this immediately dealt with? This is bigger than the United States. There are people all over the place that
Mhm.
have something going on with this. It's not just us. We've seen it popping up in countries all over Europe and threats being made to Canada and I believe Brazil and who knows who else. They got kicked out of India and that
Panama.
kind of stuff. Panama. Oh yeah, you name it.
Mm. Yeah.
So, it's a discouraging moment in many ways, but again, Mars is retrograde. Mars is traveling over territory that
Mm.
it was in towards the end of October when some particularly strange statements were made, when there was a prophecy about the electoral map and when there was a huge rally on the ellipse. And I would invite you to compare that rally that Kamala had at the end of the campaign and the thousands of people who were there with photos of the rally um, on Saturday that also flooded the mall. Um,
Mhm.
so this is happening. We're going back over things again. This is directly hitting stuff in a certain person's chart. We had said in earlier forecasts that the Cancer full moon, which just happened, Mars was going to be occulted by it, and something would come out, and that is when the J6 report came out, and you say, yeah, what, so what? Well, it's something. There's something there.
And there's another occultation of Mars on February the 9th. So,
February
9th. We'll see. That one's
Andy,
over Russia. Yeah.
All over Russia. Yeah. So maybe something comes out that's pretty irrefutable at that point. And I also want to stress, and I'm going to shut up and let you guys talk more. I also want to stress that astrology shows energies and areas that are being activated. Unless you're doing something called horary, when you're asking a specific question, it is very difficult to pinpoint specific events that will happen. But there are trajectories, and there was a trajectory that I kept tracking that suggested a very different playing out this past weekend. It doesn't mean it's over. It means that it's not there now. And if you attach specific events and expectations, you're probably going to have your brain messed with, sorry to say. Yeah. So, Andy.
Well, I mean, it still comes down to, I think, that the United States is not the only game in town, that we have this global interconnection. We have alliances, we have responsibilities. Trump is trying to destabilize that. We talked about this for the past few months. The destabilization of Trump and what he's saying and the potential for how that might be complicated for people who depend upon us is likely to lead to people making changes elsewhere. We've already seen this with NATO. We're likely to see this in other places. We're seeing this with Canada. We're seeing this with Mexico. And so I still maintain that these collective forces have the potential to circle back around and have a direct impact on the United States. How we present ourselves on the world stage is up for grabs now. And I think that it's important that we really look at our responsibilities on the world stage and what those are likely to do in return to us. I don't think, and I talked about this neo-Nazi thing years and years and years ago, and have been expecting it. I still don't believe that it gets as bad as it may appear on the surface in the worst case scenario. I still think that we do not have the same types of conditions that we might have had in Germany in the 1930s. And I still think that good things will come out of this. Trump is trying to, in my opinion, it's a land grab to basically drive the Brinks truck up to the Treasury and run home with it. Mm-hmm. I do not believe that that will be allowed to happen. The United States didn't get to this point by being completely loosey-goosey. I still think there are people, career governmental officials in place that will have some say about this, and I still maintain the United States military has a potential say in this. So I realize I feel bummed too, but I still feel kind of optimistic that good things are more likely than bad, even though it's likely to get a little hairy short term. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think for that.
Agreed. And yes, I'm very happy that Leonard Peltier is going home too.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Joe.
We have the chart of the exact moment of the swearing in. Can we put that chart up? It's the one that's not MLK. I'm not sure what the label on the chart is. Here we go. Inauguration chart. Okay.
Exact Trump. That's what I called it, because I did it very quickly while I was just tuning in for that moment. So, well, I think I just noticed the ascendant. First of all, is 15 Taurus. And when we look at Martin Luther King's Jr.'s chart, his ascendant is conjunct that. And so that pinged me a few things. But, first thing I notice is that Mars is retrograde right on the IC. And that's the very root of the chart. And it's retrograde and it's out of bounds. And it's going back into the third house. So it's revisiting something, rethinking something. More truths are going to come out, in my opinion. But of course, with it being Mars, it also explains why so many people feel their sense of security and safety is threatened by this, because Cancer in the bottom of the chart really is your sense of safety and security. And I invite you to just think outside the box, that Mars is retrograde and is going to come back. I really do think he's not going to quite be able to do all the things he's threatened. But also look at Mars. Mars is making a T-square to Black Moon Lilith and Eris, two of the angrier, shall we say, divine feminine energies, who are not happy, shall we say, with all of this. And, I think, what was it Dalai Lama said? Western women are going to save the world. Women are not happy about this in general. Yes, I know a lot of women voted for him, but neither are marginalized people, and so, I just don't think people are not going to take it lying down. As Andy said about the conditions for the rise of Nazi Germany, it's a different time. People have these communities, connections, and are banding together to withstand this. Anyway, I'll let Kathy look at other things in the chart, and I'll let Andy look too.
You mentioned a T-square. There's another one. And for those of you who are watching and say, what does that mean? A T-square is a very tense configuration that has two opposite bodies putting equal pressure on the body in the middle, kind of forcing something. The other one that I notice here is the moon in Libra, representing the people, is opposite Chiron in Aries, which is toxic masculinity stuff, and they're both squaring Mercury at 18 Capricorn in the house of laws, foreign relations, and Mercury is conjunct Pallas, which is strategy. It's also it's a very powerful feminine archetype. You got any thoughts on what that T-square might be doing?
Well, I kind of see them all working together, really. It's really, in many ways, this is a cardinal grand cross, which is very, very tense, but it's forcing change. It's all it's in Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, which are all cardinal signs, which like to initiate things and start new things. And just looking where their energies are, Capricorn there, I feel like, the rules are going to be enforced, if you like, it feels like. But it's a tense moment. But I think just the people, the moon, Libra, want justice. They don't want this. They want peace, they want balance, they want harmony in general. I think it just tells me altogether that justice is coming, and healing. Yeah.
And that T-square to Mercury and Pallas, to me, echoes something coming from overseas, information, very tangible.
From the ninth,
Andy,
yeah.
Andy, your thoughts about
There's a couple of things that jump out to me. Probably the more obvious one is the moon today hitting Trump's Uranus. And I think that that's going to have an impact on the way in which he tries to present himself in the world stage. I don't think his rhetoric is going to play as well as he thinks it will. I think there are a lot of people kind of over his particular ways of operating. But the thing that really kind of struck me with this chart is we have a conjunction in the inauguration chart of Venus and Saturn and Trump in the 11th house. And Trump has a conjunction natally of Venus and Saturn in the 11th house. And retrograde Mars, as Louise pointed out, is right down at the bottom of the chart. And that retrograde Mars at 24 Cancer is at the midpoint of Trump's natal Venus Saturn conjunction, 23 and 25 Cancer. I think that what Trump is going to do is unleash, as the old Southerners would say, a hornet's nest against him. I still believe that when people really see what I expect is the ineptitude of Trump played out once again, that their patience may wear thin quicker than people may expect. I don't think that Trump is a really good organizer. I think that he, to some degree, is happiest in chaos. Chaos gets tiring to people. And I think that from the chart standpoint, Venus and Saturn there in the 11th is a theme that's going to replay. And Trump is not good at, he tends to invite people in opposition to him. And I think that that is going to be a bigger number. And I think the force of that will be more than he can handle. That's my expectation. But I also think that the moon there in the 6th with his Uranus, we've talked a lot about speed. I think that his approval ratings and things like that could go very bad in a hurry. I mean, I'm optimistic for that, but it's not my job to be optimistic. I have to try to be neutral. That's also what I expect is the more likely path forward.
Since you mentioned the Venus Saturn and Mars being at the bottom of the chart, as Mars continues to retrograde from February 9th to March 12th, right? It's going to just be sitting in a trine to that Venus Mars. So something's going to be going on about the restrictions or the money stuff or whatever deals he has with other governments. There'll be something that will be stirring and stirring and stirring. Mm-hmm. With the turnaround point when Mars goes direct on February 23rd. So this kind of ties to the timeline that we're seeing. Mars will get back to the spot where it is now towards the end of March, I believe.
But when it stations direct, it's going to be opposite Mercury. It's going to be hitting that T-square. It's going to be a grand cross. So when Mars turns direct, it's possible people are already over it by then. And what's that, February? Yep. I mean, that sets up, it's going to square the moon. I mean, it's not so great. And it's going to square Chiron. So I still think that people are not quite as enthusiastic about Mr. Trump as he would like. I think that the initiatives that he's pushing through, trying to put women back in the 1800s, it's just crazy to me.
I think that's why he moved it inside to the rotunda, because the crowds and the enthusiasm just wasn't there, and he didn't want people to see that personally. The Emperor has no clothes. I just pulled a card from that deck, Kathy, and I pulled the naked man.
Oh, that's perfect.
That is fantastic. Oh my God, Louise, I love that.
Perfect. The deck that Louise has mentioned is the deck of character, which is no longer, it's out of print and it's single images. And I pulled 3 for the inauguration, and I got elves, a bunch of elves, airplane, and key. And that to me said lots of information coming on a plane from far away. That's the key. So that, it's a silly way, but it fits with all of this. Anything more about this chart? We've got a couple of minutes before the break.
I would just love to say, I know people are going, I trust he won't be in office for long. Nothing against you, Tricia, but I would invite people to, not just focus on just him. This is way bigger than him. So, yes, this was a moment for us in the USA today, but this is a big global network. And I think this is why I know a lot of people are angry at Biden because he could have done something. Apparently, I don't know exactly what he could have done to take him out, but what would that have left us with? This has to be bigger. So anyway, yeah, that's fine.
Anything else about the inauguration chart before we go to break? You're done? Andy, you got anything?
No, nothing really to add to what you two have that I can say in 30 seconds. So we're good.
Okay, so we can take that chart down then, please. All right. Well, maybe this is be a good spot for us to go ahead and take our break just a few seconds early. So everybody hang out. We've got a lot more to talk about.
Om Times TV.
Want help with your own celestial compass? Visit my site, empowermentunlimited.net, for Astro Insight forecasts for each week, month, and new and full moon. Want to explore the personal impact? Make a decision? Understand another person? It is possible. Click the Services tab to book a personal session with me. That address again? empowermentunlimited.net.
Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Celestial Compass. I'm talking with Louise Edington and Andy Brewer. I understand there's a spammer in the chat. Please ignore the spammer in the chat. If someone is asking you to send anything from you, to him, ignore. Before we look at another chart, I would like to talk about the Pluto Cazimi. So we've got the sun meeting Pluto in Aquarius, which it did last year, but now it's like well and good. What any thoughts about that?
So it says I've got to reload, but I think I'm all right, aren't I? You can hear me.
The chat went out.
Oh,
yeah. Hold on.
Okay.
Chris, are we still on? Can you tell me? Are we still on, Chris?
Hello,
yes.
Chris.
Okay. Yes, we're fine. Okay. Thank you. All right. Sorry. So whatever's going on with the
back.
Chat.
Yeah, it's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't don't give your birth information in the chat
to anybody. No, don't do that. So the sun is meeting Pluto in Aquarius. Thoughts? Anybody?
Well, this is the first time they've met since Pluto's been fully in Aquarius, and it's at 1 degree. It's gone past that 0 degree that's been activated over and over again. I think this is launching us, the start of really launching us into the new paradigm. I've even heard the most skeptical astrologers say that, well, perhaps this is actually the age of Aquarius that we're entering, so to speak. So we are entering this new paradigm, and I really think that's it. And it's at the top of the chart, but I don't think that means that what we have today will hold, because it wasn't quite exact. I think it's indicating that Pluto is going to do its job of showing the shadow that really needs to be purged to move forward. Does that make sense?
It does. Andy, do you have thoughts on this?
I mean, it could be a positive thing for Trump too. I mean, if you look at it, but But I think there's definitely a revolutionary aspect to having Pluto and the Sun here right at the top of the chart. So the Sun obviously is high in the sky, but so is Pluto at noon. Um, he's about trying to change things, but in reverse. And so the question is going to be, in my opinion, which direction do we change? Because I think change is imminent. Are we regressing or are we moving forward? And my guess is because Pluto's a little bit of a trickster, a little bit of a hellraiser, that backwards and forwards is likely to go back and forth a lot. I think it's a very disruptive period. Would not surprise me that the next year is kind of wild, but I still maintain that there's more good things to look forward to than bad. There may be some regressive measures in the short term, but people don't get down on yourselves. Don't get down on, what we can do collectively. I still think that good things are likely to happen. But Pluto up there, I think it's a little bit complicated. And I think I think this works in Trump's favor until it stops. And I think when it stops, it really stops. And I just think that it gets very complicated for Trump, and the things that he's doing, they could have a pushback, and I expect that pushback will happen. And I expect that's through financial issues, just like what we've seen over the last few years. I think Trump's financial orientation will lead to pushback against him. And you can also see that with Jupiter down there in Gemini in the second. So that's my take on it.
What about you, Kathy?
Well, I like let's strip it down to some key words here. All right. So Pluto deals in power, where power is distributed. It also deals with really scary things we don't like to talk about. It's also regeneration, death and rebirth. Aquarius, technology. Oh, also huge amounts of money. Okay, I forgot that one. So Aquarius, the collective. Is it the little people banding together, all those people out in the street? It has something to do with technology. So one thing that's immediately apparent is the role of the oligarchs, the role of the technology billionaires at this moment, and the consolidation of power in just a very few people. That would be a Pluto in Aquarius event. But that's not the only thing. I will encourage you to look throughout history as things that have happened when Pluto moved into Aquarius, and it coincides with the birth of democracy, with the birth of the middle class. The last time this happened, with wide income disparity leading to those on the bottom deciding they didn't like it and taking action against those on the top. Do we have another spammer? I can't see the chat at all, so I don't know if we have another spammer.
I thought Christopher might see it. He's
Okay.
taking
Just took him out. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, there is, so for the people listening to this, what does this mean for you? Well, I have certainly been saying that a lot local focus, collective focus, groups banding together, arm in arm in arm across the board, more and more and more as a form of power, and looking at what you can do and not sitting back and going, oh, there are these big institutions that I am just a mere pawn, which is kind of a Pluto in Capricorn approach to things. But Pluto in Aquarius is much more, me and my friends are going to get a bunch of rocks, so we're going to start throwing them.
So I agree, Cassie, and I no matter what you think of Biden, his words on that farewell address, the way he looked at the camera and said, it's kind of up to you now. Aquarius is power to the people. And one of my favorite expressions that one of my main teachers taught me about Pluto is Pluto takes away what you thought was your power and leaves you with what is truly your power. So I think the people are going to really find out that the power is within them to enact this change if they choose and band together. And just one group. I went listened to Heather Cox Richardson last night on a group called Red Wine and Blue, and they're organizing, and there's all these groups organizing. There's Indivisible, there's all kinds. You don't have to run for office. You can support others that run for office. There's a million things that people can do if enough people get involved. So, yeah.
And keep pushing back. I have my new senator's phone number in my phone. I've already called him. So,
well, I have my senator's number in my phone, but it's Mike Lee. So.
Oh, well.
Yes.
Now you have a chart for Martin Luther King Jr., correct?
Yeah.
Shall we look at that? Chris, can you put that chart up for us, please? MLK. Today is his birthday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's
close to it. Okay.
It's close to it because
today is his day honoring him. Okay.
Yes. And Martin Luther King Jr. Day is always the third Monday in January, but it's not always on Inauguration Day. And I think it's significant that the two things fell on the same day, on this particular occasion. So this is his birth chart. I don't know how accurate the time is actually, but that's the time that was in my software. Okay, so I'm going to go with it. That's the one in the samples. And he's got almost exactly the same ascendant as the chart for the swearing in and that moment. But my bigger point, really, more even than his natal chart, was that he was active in the 60s, 63, 64, particularly when he did I Have a Dream speech and the letter from Birmingham jail. And that was when Pluto and Uranus were conjunct. That's that whole generation that seeded like all the civil rights and all those kind of things in the 60s. Well, now, like literally right now, Pluto and Uranus are about to have an opening trine, it's called. So that means they've gone from when they were together in the 60s. We went through a hellish time of a Pluto-Uranus squares from 2012 to about 2015. And now we've got this I love how Kathy always says it's an aspect that's an unbroken flow, and it's an opening one, which means it's moving forward, pushing the change that began in the 60s. And so this is kind of bringing him in again by no accident, in my opinion. But there's a couple of things I do notice. Jupiter went retrograde on his Mars, and people's charts live on after they pass away. It's said, and Mars is going to station direct on his Pluto. So I'm sure there's other things, but I'm just like, wow, all of this. And he's got a lot of stuff here. And he was born with one of my favorite dwarf planets. Sorry, guys, I add loads of things.
That's fine.
Eris was at 0 Aries when Martin Luther King was born. And she is the table shaker. She is the revealer of like unfairness and artifice in my opinion. That's her role. And that 0 Aries point has been hot, hot, hot. And we have the Venus retrograde coming up that in the middle of it is at 2 Aries, activating all this. I think this moment is going to cause a revolution. Hopefully a peaceful one, but I think it is going to cause a revolution. So
there are so many things that in this chart speaking to that, because the moon, his moon, is where Saturn and Venus are right now in the 11th house. So there's an echo of his message, his connection, his spiritual and religious vision. That I Have a Dream speech, absolutely perfect for somebody with moon in Pisces. Also, currently the Sun and Pluto at one Aquarius are squaring his Jupiter. That's kind of like bringing him back out. Other things to note are Neptune will move across his Eris, almost like divine visitation, end of March. That'll start for much of the year. And then at the end of May, Saturn does exactly the same thing. So those are times when things could be hot. And I will just point out the bleeding obvious that his Mars is on Trump's sun.
Yep. Yes, it is.
So if, you
Yeah.
know, and the vision of him in with that crowd has been shared so widely today
Mm.
of all
Mhm.
days. So
Yeah.
he's overshadowed what's been going on.
He has, and yeah, I just never think there's any accidents, and it almost felt offensive that this was going to happen on his day, but now I see kind of like why.
Andy, we've been yakking. What are you thinking?
I decided to ascend to a different planet, I guess, for a few minutes. But one real quick thing, I mean, Dr. King's legacy is being, in some sense, bombarded. And all the push for all the civil rights initiatives that have happened from the 50s, 60s on, women's rights, civil rights on every level, um, is being challenged. And I don't think that Dr. King's legacy and the work that he and so many other people have done is going to just go back into, the Civil War era. I also think it's interesting that Saturn Venus is in opposition to what is, when we had those conjunctions of Uranus and Pluto in the mid 60s, right about the middle of Pisces there, this conjunction of Saturn and Venus is right there as well. And I just think that, I mean, in opposition, excuse me, I just think that people are not going to take this lying down. There is going to be a collective effort. People don't want to go back to housewives barefoot and pregnant. They just don't want that to happen. I do not believe that we allow that to happen. And I'm hopeful that the legacy of Dr. King and so many other people will be honored and seen as an inspiration. And we take initiatives to move forward in a positive way. I still think we don't go completely backwards. I mean, to quote
No.
Kamala, we're not going back. And I don't think we will.
I think it might feel like it for a little bit because of them, it being tried, but yeah. Anyway, yes, Cecile did. Yeah, she passed. Yeah, what a day to pass. Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of makes
Mhm.
sense to me. We're talking about
Well,
Cecile Richards, who was the president of Planned Parenthood and the daughter of Governor Ann Richards of Texas.
Mhm.
And I love Anne so much. Oh my God, she was a badass. I loved her so much.
Yeah, and
I want
Cecile. Her too.
since Louise brought up the Uranus Pluto conjunction of the 60s, I just want to point out that there are a lot of people right around the age of 60 right now that have that embedded in their charts. Kamala's
Like
got it
Harry.
really Kamala's
Yeah.
got it really tightly. Tim Walz has it. Hakeem Jeffries has it in a
Mhm.
slightly different place. But Kamala's ties directly into King's 19-degree Pisces moon.
Mhm.
And there are other things going on throughout the year, and you can say, yeah, false hope. Here we go. Meh, meh, meh. Kamala's aspects coming up this year are so powerful. She may have gone back to Los Angeles for now, but she will be rising up and on the scene one way or another and stepping
Mhm.
into her actual path, her mission. Um, March and April in a way that has not been manifested yet. And
Mhm.
we've said this many times. Is there anything else about Martin Luther King Jr.'s chart anyone wants to say?
Oh gosh, I could probably go on forever, but I'm not going to. I will say his asteroid Vesta, that looks like the flame figure in the middle of that house 12 piece of the pie. Vesta, that's asteroid Vesta. Vesta often represents like the literal state, because the Vestal Virgins kept the flame burning to protect Rome from falling. And his Vesta is at 18 Aries, which is a conjunct where Chiron has been sitting for so long, and where it was conjunct that eclipse on April the 8th, and where it was when the nodes moved back into Aries. So 19 Aries, 18, 19 Aries has been so potent for so long. And it's conjunct one of my favorite centaurs, which is revealer of abuses of power. It's almost like he's been, his energy has come back in to reveal what these abuses of power are doing to his legacy in a way, and what the people really want. And he's
Andy,
back at the heart of the state. Yeah.
anything else, Andy?
No, I think what Louise said is really powerful, and I think it's really important to not lose hope. I mean, I kind of came out of retirement a little bit to try to add one extra voice to say that don't give up. Don't let this make you feel as if there's nothing that you can do. There's a lot of things we can do. I realize Trump and what he's doing is a triggering force to a lot of people who suffered trauma. And when that happens, and I think to some degree that's Trump's primary motivation, is to create this disruption and make people second guess themselves and not really feel strong to move forward. But there are a lot of good things that can happen. And I just don't want people to get into a space where they feel they don't have options to move forward, where they feel that everything has to be bad. Obviously, this is not so great. The threat to people of color, the threat to women is intense, but I still believe that there are good things that can happen, and that's still my hope. And it's also my prediction moving forward. I still think that there are forces within the collective emotional body of the United States and the collective emotional body of the world at large that are larger than Trump and a few people's desire to destabilize things so they can make some money and make women be submissive. I don't see that happening, and I think Dr. King's legacy is really powerful here, and I do think that he comes back, hopefully, to some prominence, and we look back to him and all the things that he showed us so that we can follow in those footsteps one more time. That's what I hope, and it really is what I expect.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And I will use that to lead into, there are a lot of really empowering energies this year, personally empowering, and they can take you to a point of having no F's left to give and not worrying about what's going on in the world and just doing things. And you will find something lighting within you more and more, starting at the end of March and then pumping up again at the end of May. And you could have like your own wisdom taking you somewhere, increasingly your own connection to wisdom and spirit and your own guidance, and not looking for someone to tell you what to do, will get stronger and stronger. And I persist. Every reading I have done for anyone, including my annual tarot spread that I do that uses the 12 houses, remarkably positive. They did not paint the picture of a fascist hellscape at all. So I can't tell you how that's going to happen, but I encourage, as I have been consistently, focus on your own, on getting your own life in a really happy place and connecting to other people in a really happy place. And that spreads and it has a powerful impact. Okay, you guys, what do you
and I would say you don't even have to get involved politically. Everything counts, whether it's, going and doing a shift at the food kitchen or whatever. But, if you want some inspiration, there's a few things. That Timothy Snyder wrote a book called On Tyranny, and he has a Substack blog under his name, Snyder. He wrote his 20 steps for fighting tyranny on his blog again today, on his Substack blog. So you don't even have to buy the book. And the first one is do not obey in advance, which means don't kind of sink into this despair and think we're doomed and think that we can do nothing about it, because we can. So
And also, happiness is contagious.
yes.
I want people to really remember that. Happiness is contagious. Wanting to be in a happy space is the very last thing that Trump wants to see happen. So just by being happy, by being optimistic to some degree, that's a revolutionary act. By thinking that there is still room for growth, that is still room for expansion, is a revolutionary act. Trump's entire platform is to make people feel that they have nothing to look forward to. They have no facts upon which to build a case moving forward. But just by finding happiness within yourself and sharing that with other people, you change the world for the better. I know this sounds kind of hokey, but I believe it's true. And I think in this particular time, it's critical that we remember that and practice that to keep ourselves sane, for one thing, but also to help make the world better. And also, final thing, to help protect the things that we have made that have actually made America great in the past, which is completely different than make America great again in the future. So, yeah.
I was chuckling because on Blue Sky, my pinned post is "Joy is an act of revolution." So there you go.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Louise, what do you have to add to that? Besides your opinion?
My favorite thing is self-care. Fill your own cup first as well, especially if you're finding this really hard. Do just go and do a lot of self-care, get out in nature. It's okay to kind of come back later when you've filled your cup again, because it is, Kathy and I and Andy, I think we're all in a good place about it because we've been so deeply diving into it, but I know a lot of people are finding it hard. So, look after those around you, but also please, I believe in what we put out brings things in. Don't keep, posting on Facebook or whatever that we're doomed, because I don't think we are doomed.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. It will be, as Andy calls it, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. But know that, I mean,
that is T-Toad.
That is Toad. But it isn't just about us. It isn't just about our country. There is a huge multinational consideration of what is going on, and very complicated. So,
diversity is powerful. Diversity makes us better. Embracing diversity makes the United States better. It makes the world better. Having everything be based on fear is ridiculous. It doesn't work. By remembering how much we have in common, we will make the world better, and we will save ourselves from the hellscape that Trump and his associates are trying to move forward. I do not believe that will happen, because I think that people don't want it to happen, and I think that we will collectively resist that and make things actually turn out better.
a lawsuit has been filed within 1 hour of his inauguration. The first lawsuit against
really?
was filed. Yeah. So it's right.
And to anybody in the comments, we're only basing it on his actual words. So yes, he does say these things. So
yes,
I'm not going to be gaslit in the comments. Sorry.
No, enough gaslighting going on. All right. So we're wrapping up. Andy, where can people find you?
Andrew-brewer.com.
And you rant on Facebook, and sometimes that ends up on Medium, correct?
I share thoughts on Facebook, Kathy. Perhaps people might look at them as ranting, but I try to think of them as measured thoughts that I'm sharing in a thoughtful way, that might have a bit of an aggro kind of hint to them at times. But yes, Andrew
And-
Bassano Brewer on Facebook.
And Louise, where do people find you?
Yeah, my website is louiseedington.com, spelt as it is in the picture there. And if Cosmic Owl Astrology on YouTube, on Substack, on Facebook, and I'm also on Blue Sky under my Louise Edington name. So,
And on my YouTube channel, Professional Aquarian, and Louise's Cosmic Owl Astrology YouTube channel, we both have playlists with our political astrology collaborations that we have done since early November, and they look at influences and charts of all the players you would hope to think about, and increasingly the other countries and leaders from other countries that play a role. So I encourage you to look at that. My site is empowermentunlimited.net. I have weekly, monthly, and new and full moon forecasts there. They're also on the Professional Aquarian YouTube channel. And except for the weeklies, they are at omtimes.com. You can also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Kathy Biehl. So thank you so much. And thanks for being with us, Louise and Andy. And stay calm, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
peace.
Happy 2025.